Greetings, my name is Andre Siebrits from Cape Town, South Africa, and I am very happy to apply for this initiative, this fantastic effort by Space for Humanity to increase the diversity of people who have the opportunity to go to space and have their mindsets changed by that experience. So let's get to the questions. First of all, what do I think about the importance of this mission? I think it's fantastically important because, as we are all very much aware, the people who have had the opportunity to go to space and experience this kind of transformative shift in their mindset, it's very limited to a few countries. And in Africa, we can say that that kind of underrepresentation is even more pronounced. For example, from South Africa, we have only had 2 people make it to space. And the first one was Mark Shuttleworth, who was, I believe, the second privately funded astronaut. And of course, who has that opportunity in life? Very few people. And the second one was a pilot for Spaceship One. So, and that's it. And the same applies for the rest of Africa. So I think it's really important to extend the diversity of people, especially from Africa, to actually experience this mindset shift and also understand why space is so critically important for human development. And I think that also links directly to the second question: why do I personally want to go to space as a citizen astronaut? And I think it's best summed up, and I also noticed you use Carl Sagan's quote on your website, and I have to say Carl Sagan is one of my absolute heroes, and he was actually also the one who spoke about how the moment of now is so important, it's so epochal, because we are facing these crises right now that actually threaten the habitability of our planet. And obviously that is one of the things that you realize when you go to space. You see that from a new perspective. And actually, as Carl Sagan also put it, we are unfortunately very ignorant of the interrelations of life on Earth. And that is partly responsible for this crisis that we're finding ourselves in. And that requires a transformation in our thinking, what Carl again called the long astronomical perspective. And so I think that's very much in line with what I said with the first question, why it's so important for more people to experience this. And I keep looking at the world, a globe of the world there in the background, if you're wondering. Because I think it's so important that more people experience that. And we see, for example, today very worrying trends. For example, a kind of anti-scientific movement, especially in the developed nations, especially the USA of all places, denying, for example, that people have gone to the moon, denying that people even go to space. It's this whole flat eartherism thing, and it's a real problem. And I think the only way that we can change that is by including more people in endeavors like this. Because the problem is also people go off their own experience. So if they don't have the experience of actually seeing that the Earth is not a flat place, that is just an infinite thing that we can use and abuse however we like, then unfortunately there's this tendency to resist this idea of responsibility. But anyway, as Carl Sagan also said, this endeavor of changing our perspective on the planet as a whole might also be too difficult for us. It might be too late, but we still have to try. So that's partly why I want to go. The other reason why I want to go is because I have done some research on the space sector in Africa. I am currently working for the European Space Policy Institute, but I'm based here in South Africa. And one of the things that I did as part of that work is I co-authored this book, Space Supporting Africa, a Primary Needs Approach and Africa's Emerging Space Middle Powers. And there you see my name as well. So anyway, the thing is also here we focused a lot on the primary needs. And people have often these kind of fantastical ideas when it comes to space, traveling to Mars and all these things. But for people on Earth, especially in the developing world or the global south, these are just fantasies in a way. We have to employ space to improve people's lives now. And the best ways are through education, healthcare, water, agriculture, all of the basic needs. So I think that's really a good place to focus on. And that also leads to the final question: what else do I want to tell you? And I really like the fact that you bring in this sustainable development goals in your framework, because I've also co-authored a chapter on that. And it's in this book, Embedding Space in African Society, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030, supported by Space Applications. And these are all published by Springer. So I just want to show you this because I think it is important for considering my application. So in this case, I co-authored this chapter. It's now a bit difficult to see here, but it is called Towards the Sustainable Development Goals in Africa, the African Space Education Ecosystem for Sustainability and the Role of Educational Technologies. So I've also published some work in the field of educational technologies. And also based on this chapter, I think the specific sustainable development goal that I would like to focus on as part of the whole ambassadorship is education. Because unfortunately, one of the things that you realize when you look at the space sector in Africa, you always have to justify, why are we spending money on space? Why are we spending money on satellites? Why are we not doing it on more pressing things? And the reason is because space supports all of those things. It enables the growth in agriculture, in education, all of those various things. Finally, and this is just again to support my application, I also have a chapter that I authored in this book, Outer Space and Popular Culture, Influences and Interrelations. And this one is called, I don't know if you'll be able to see it there, but there it is nonetheless. This is all available online as well on the Springer website. Keeping the torch burning for good science in popular culture, video games, space and education. So it's again using technology, especially current technology such as video games, to teach people about the space sector. So this is all related to basically spreading awareness and all of that. I also have another book that's forthcoming in which I authored and co-authored 7 chapters. I can share the details of that with you. The book is called Integrated Space for African Society, Legal and Policy Implementation of Space in African Countries. And there are some chapters in general. It's all about Africa and space again. Africa and Space is actually the name of one of the chapters. But I also focus in depth on Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia and Zimbabwe, which is also an interesting upcoming case of space in Africa, because they recently established a space agency as well. And then finally, I also co-authored a chapter called Initiatives for Embedding Space Applications in African Societies. But I don't actually have the hard copy of that book yet, but it is available online. So I thought I would just mention that as well. You know, you have to add everything that supports your application, otherwise why bother? So I don't know what else I can tell you. Let me think for a moment. Why do I want to go? I think it's exciting. It's been my lifelong dream, but unfortunately in South Africa we don't have an astronaut program. In Africa we don't have astronaut programs. There's plans in Nigeria, for example, to have some Nigerian astronauts in the medium-term future, possibly by 2030, but it seems a bit ambitious. But we also have the African Space Agency that was founded very recently and is based in Egypt. So possibly sometime in the future there could also be a human space program, but that seems very, very far off. So I have preciously few opportunities for making this kind of dream a reality. But in any case, I think also I just want to mention about the whole impact venture and the ambassadorship at the end. One of the other reasons why I like this whole program of yours and why I would like to participate, if at all possible, is because of the skills. You also mentioned the leadership and communication skills, and I think I would definitely enjoy those, learning more about that, and especially again in the space sector. And also big part of this impact venture and ambassadorship for me personally will be further publications, because this is how you reach people. It's also, of course, through other media like social media and video games, the whole more up-to-date kind of fourth generation technologies. But at the end of the day, publishing your work and publishing your findings is very important. So I think this is how you do it in a very lasting kind of a way. So that's one of the things that I would like to take out of this experience, is to add further to publications and to share that kind of perspective and to link it specifically to Africa. My focus is on Africa. So yes, I'll leave it with that. Thank you for this opportunity, and I wish you good luck sifting through the many thousands of applications, but I'm sure it will be an enjoyable experience. But thank you. I look forward to hearing from you and receiving positive feedback. But anyway, thank you very much. I can also just add here a little bit more on my background. I do have a BA degree in International Relations from the University of Stellenbosch here in South Africa. I also have a master's degree in International Relations, also from the University of Stellenbosch. Afterwards, I went to work in the e-learning field at the University of the Western Cape, so I do have a variety of journal papers that I published through my work there, and that was all to do with e-learning and again learning technologies and that kind of thing. I can again share all of the finer points, the details with you if you would like. And so yes, and of course now I am working with the European Space Policy Institute. So I thought I would just add that a little bit. You know, it's always good to know about people's backgrounds, where they come from intellectually and so on. My master's thesis was done on the world systems analysis, specifically looking at the rise of hegemonic powers within the world system. And I focused on the Dutch case specifically. So that was a more economic and historical kind of focus. But anyway, that is also available online if you should like to consult that. So yes, just adding this note. I should also add that I am currently working on a PhD at the University of Cape Town, and my dissertation or thesis is called "Where is the Global South in Outer Space?" And I think that is a very pertinent question, because again, if we just look at the representation of astronauts or space travelers in general, where is the Global South in outer space? But I'm looking also at governance and all kinds of things like that. But I thought I should just add this as well, because my research in that field is also ongoing. But hopefully, knock on wood, that will be done before 2021, which is of course your proposed launch date. Of course, there's the training before that as well. So I'll have to work around that if, knock on wood again, things work out. But anyway, I just wanted to add this as well. Thank you again for this opportunity.